I used to do lots of things.
I used to do things and I'd say things and Jesus I was evil. Say things and break things and Jesus I was evil.
All right, welcome to the latest episode of the Reckless Musecast. I'm Joe, and I got Ben here, and we have a special guest too.
Yeah, so we're joined by Vito Gesualdi, YouTuber and comedian of the YouTube channels Vito and Vito 2, and the podcast, The Biggest Problem in the Universe.
That
Did I get
is
that right?
correct. Hello,
All right.
gentlemen.
Welcome, Vito.
excited.
Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, baby.
All right.
What are you guys up to today? What is today? Wednesday?
Thursday.
Thursday.
Thursday? What a nightmare.
Yeah, at least on the East Coast it is.
I gotta go. It's like Christmas time.
Yeah.
You heard of that? I have all this stuff I gotta sell on like eBay, and I gotta list it all, and I keep not doing it. Now my time's running out. It's only like 15 days before Christmas.
Like Pokemon cards? Like what kind of shit?
I have a bunch of video game consoles that I kind of bought years ago. My buddy used to have a video game store, and one day he said, "Do you want to buy everything in my?" He was like, "I have to move, and I have nowhere to put this stuff. I'll give it all to you. I'll give it all to you for $1,000." And I was like, "There's like a million video games in there," and he's like, "Yeah." Just
what do you want, like a Funko Land? Was it like a Funko Land?
No, but his back room was like basically a Funko Land. He was terrible at selling stuff. He was just sitting on the shelf. So I now have like 50 Sega Genesises, and no one wants a Sega Genesis in the history of the world.
Dude,
I don't know.
That was my first system. I think my brother still has it. My first game I remember was the 6-pack cartridge. I don't know if you remember 6-pack.
We were talking about that recently. Yeah, you got 6 games.
6 games. One of them was like the Bejeweled, basically knockoff of Tetris. I don't know if that counts, but
yeah,
and then
columns.
And Revenge of Shinobi, I'm convinced, is the most difficult game ever created. No one can get past the first level.
No, that game is a nightmare. 100%.
Yeah, Sonic the Hedgehog, that one, Golden Axe. Yeah, good games.
No, there's good stuff on that 6-pack. I remember my cousin had that 6-pack, and I was like, hold the phone. 6 games on one cartridge.
Yeah, my parents were like, that's all you're getting. You're not getting any more.
We've devalued video games, though. Like, now a video game, it's like you can get like free games everywhere.
No,
a video game doesn't mean anything anymore. It's weird. I have that Epic Game Store on my app, and they give you like a free game every week, and I haven't played any of them. I got like Call of Duty or Grand Theft Auto. Every week I get a new game, and I'm like, I'll never play it, but I want it. Give it a... It's a nightmare.
Yeah.
Well, I reached out to you a month or so ago, or a few weeks ago, whatever it was, during the great awakening isn't really a original term anymore, but that religious experience that occurred outside the Netflix studios or headquarters, whatever it is, and that's in LA, right?
Yeah.
I was in LA.
Yeah. That's like North Hollywood, I think.
Yeah, and you
different neighborhoods,
and you and a friend kind of went into the fire pit there to stand up for something that to Joe and I seemed like very obvious and not all that controversial. But I do like to ask the hard-hitting questions on this podcast, and I have to ask, why do you like jokes?
Oh, I thought you were going to ask, where do you get your ideas? And then we'd have that class discussion. I'm going to ask the hard-hitting questions. Why do I like jokes?
Yeah, why?
I always tell people, I'm just fucking bored. Life is boring. I hate to say it. You're like, you wake up in the morning, you're like, what the fuck am I going to do? I'm so bored. And jokes are the only thing that keep me sane, that I'm like, all right, at least something to kind of tickle my interests and make me have a laugh or whatever else. And anytime someone goes, yeah, but you're gonna hurt people and they're marginalized, and I'm like, shut up, I'm so bored. Don't take the one thing away from me that makes life tolerable. I'll kill myself. And you're hurting, and they're hurt. You can't punch down. I'll punch whatever fucking direction I want, as long as it keeps me laughing, because otherwise, again, I'm just gonna jump off a bridge.
So it's more of a self-preservation thing, is what you're saying.
Yes. I would go absolutely insane without jokes. Now, and also, let's be clear. Anytime you start talking about we want to take away some sort of speech and we don't want you to say this or that, it's a scary. Those are scary things that people say because you know, yeah. I mean, I read 1984. I don't want to be that guy, but I read that book and I'm like,
we're that guy a lot on this pod.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm like, oh, it would be very easy to construct a society where, well, it's illegal to say that. And the second you start saying it's illegal to say that, you know, you end up in a totalitarian hellhole where it's like you can't criticize the government, you can't criticize certain groups. You know, a crazy religious cult takes over and starts cutting people's heads off. And you go, whoa, that's a religion. You can't say that about the Zarvlukians. You know, that's hate speech. So it's terrifying. You got to be like, no, man, you can say whatever you want. You can't cancel people for it. You can't exaggerate the harm that's being done. You can't say, well, this is killing millions of children. You know it's not. We all know that Dave Chappelle never killed anybody. And that's kind of the heart of the debate. It's crazy.
But it's just, you know, one of the things I'm struggling with is that just the idea of laughter is so problematic. Like, you only see Nazis laughing. I just don't see why. It's so terrible. No, seriously, no.
Only the Nazis have a sense of humor anymore.
No, seriously, no. So I rewatched your video of the Netflix thing, and then there's that tambourine girl, and she's saying "repent, motherfucker" over and over again. It's my favorite part. I'm not gonna lie. That's my favorite part of the entire ordeal. It's if there's not a more. I mean, I've been calling this whole whatever you want to call it, movement, whatever. A religion, and it's not original to say anymore, and everyone has that take, but like, is there a better example than someone getting in your face yelling "repent, motherfucker"? It's beyond parody at this point.
We have a lot of people who've just lost their minds. I don't know if they ever had minds to begin with. It used to be the village idiot was just the village idiot, and you ignored him. You know, you got a beer and you watched people throw tomatoes at him in the stockade. Now these people go, well, I'm marginalized. And you go, well, what does that mean? They go, you have to celebrate my idiocy. And you're like, bro, you're shaking a tambourine, screaming, you know, you got 18 different genders, which God bless you, do whatever you want. But why do I got to be like, you're the most, you know, beloved and powerful and amazing person? No, you're the village idiot, half of you people. Well, I'm not saying that there's not any of those people I empathize with, but you do get these crazies out there shaking their tambourine. And they should be locked in an asylum.
So we should take a step back, and I want to recap real quick where all this started. So Dave Chappelle came out with a special, and he like most comedians, he kind of rips on lots of different groups: white people, black people, the different religions, different genders. But of course, the whole stink of it was the trans jokes or whatever. But if you actually watch the special, and Joe and I did an episode on this before, but if you actually watch the special, like, he's coming from a place of anger because trans activists in a way bullied one of his friends who was trans to death. Like, she killed herself. And that's where he's coming from. So he's not even making fun of or cracking jokes at the expense of like a whole community. It's a subset of this group that is crazy. They've lost their minds. And that's because he's coming from a place of pain. But that's not what the protesters, or that's being generous, they probably didn't even watch it. No. But if you actually watch it, it's actually kind of like pro-trans in a way, pro-trans in like celebration of friendship and differences, instead of just like falling in line with the orthodoxy.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know why we got to pretend that Dave Chappelle is a hate monger. We know he's not. Right. Like, this is a silly little thing. And like even the journalists are being sneaky where they're going, well, he made transphobic jokes. You don't get to decide that. The joke's not transphobic. It's about transgender people.
Yeah.
But is anything you say about that community automatically hates? I mean, when you say something's transphobic, you're saying it's hate speech.
Yeah.
I don't think it's hate speech. I don't think Dave has a hateful bone in his body.
Right. So I get in this argument. So first of all, I'm not saying it's hate speech at all, but hate speech is allowed in this country. I think a lot of people don't realize that. It's like, you're allowed to have hate speech. Why? Because who gets to define what hate speech is? Right. Your hate speech is just my joke, and vice versa. And that's why it's allowed. And a lot of people, which is very surprising to me, maybe, you know, I went to law school, so I took a class literally on the First Amendment, but a lot of people didn't have that education where they're shocked when I tell them that. They're like, what are you talking about? Like, you can't say that. I'm like, yes, you can. It's okay. You don't have to like it. Actually, the First Amendment protects speech you don't like. That's the whole point.
Yep.
And it's really people. It's like earth shattering to what I'm noticing is a growing population in this country. The other part, so that's one. It's kind of this two-pronged attack that I see. That's the first one's hate speech, and the second one is that what came up directly with you during your at the Netflix headquarters was words are violence. Mm-hmm. It's like your words are violence, and I think you say, or your friend, I forget who it is. It's like no, they're not. They're just words. Like words are not violence. Right. Violence is violence. Now, words can be violence when they're a direct threat
to violence.
Well, they can also be a direct threat, right? That is violence, but that's not what jokes are, and that's not what you were doing at all.
No,
like so. That, I think that's another one that people are not understanding. It's like, no, and this is unfortunately becoming so much more mainstream on one side of the political divide. It's like words are violence, just like the joke was such and such is infrastructure. This is infrastructure. It's like, no, these are not infrastructure. Like bridges and roads are infrastructure, not therapy. Therapy is not infrastructure. It's something different. So it's kind of the same thing. It's this broadening of these terms that when you stop and think about it, like, no, this doesn't make sense. Like words are not violence. And what road are we going to go down when if they do become violent? It's a very scary situation.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing is, and you do have people, if you watch my full breakdown of the protest, I don't know if I included the clip, but at one point, someone goes, well, you're spreading hate speech and that's illegal. And I'm like, how do you guys believe that? Who told you this?
Yeah.
Like, did you just hear about hate speech in the media? You're because you can get a hate crime rider. If you commit a crime and you do it while calling somebody, a racial slur, you do it for reasons of, they're the wrong color or whatever. You can get your charges increased, but you can't be charged based on I don't know, I just hate these people. Now, because again, the question is, okay, it sounds horrible to say, oh, I hate a group of people for whatever else. But again, it comes down to the religion type thing. I mean, there's a lot of people who go, look at Scientology. And they go, well, this is an exploitative thing. You have to pay money to take classes, and it bleeds people dry, and it separates them from their family. Yeah. Okay, in other countries, they specifically label Scientology. They won't recognize it as a religion because then they know it would have the same protections as any other religion. They have to label it a cult there because otherwise it would be illegal to criticize some of their practices. Thankfully, in America, we don't have to play these games where we can go, yeah, you're a religion, you get your tax status. We can't tell you can't believe in an alien, whatever the hell, God. Yeah. But we can tell you you're fucking stupid. And you can get away with it. Yeah. I mean, and that's the problem is once you start deciding who's protected or whatever, you might end up protecting a group that, frankly, you should be allowed to criticize if they're doing something crazy. In other countries, some people who are severe, they're animal rights activists, and they go, hey, I really don't like the Muslims. Their way of preparing the meat is to hang the animal upside down while it's still alive and cut its neck. I think it's barbaric. And people have gone to court and they've said, you can't criticize halal meat. That's how they make their meat. That's illegal. That's hate speech. And when you start getting into stuff like that, it's kind of ridiculous.
What I've heard, it's I think that's a good example. I was going to bring up a similar example is when you start tolerating the intolerant. And I think an example was in the UK, you have gay, let's say it's London, let's assume London. You have a gay pride parade, but then you have a lot of fundamentalist Muslims attacking it or threatening it. And it's called what I call an intersectional pretzel. It's well, they're a protected group, but so they're protected groups. We don't know what to do. And clearly who you should protect are the people having the parade, not the people threatening the parade. But they become so scared to, step in.
Islamophobic.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
You go, well, you have to respect their right to want to stone gay people to death. And you go, no, hold on. Exactly. Stop the clock.
Right.
I don't respect that.
It also gets into the thing of the more rights that you give to a group based on their based on their status as a member of this group, then the more freedoms you start to take away from the people around them. So that's when it gets really squirrely with this intersectional thing. This group is protected, but that group's protected. But in order to make sure that this group is protected, we have to kind of infringe a little bit on this other group and over here, and then it just becomes a huge mess.
Well, right. My favorite was in New York City. There's a great intersectional pretzel where they have pretty harsh. I mean, so do you guys in LA, but New York's kind of leading the charge with the vaccine passports, and it was very much looked at as this. Well, all the good progressive New Yorkers are going to fall in line and get vaccinated and there's we're just keeping the maggots out who are coming to the restaurants and shows or whatever. But in actuality, what happened is at the time, about a quarter of Black New Yorkers were vaccinated. About 75% or maybe it's 2/3 were not vaccinated, and they were not being allowed in restaurants and places that they've been going for generations. And it's well, what do? We really thought everyone would fall in line, and now and then you have Black Lives Matter, literally Black Lives Matter protesting the vaccine mandates, which were, we thought, as in the establishment. Yeah. Well, this was actually only a conservative thing that protested us, not Black Lives Matter. So what do we do? And of course, the media didn't really cover that all that much. But I'd said intersectional pretzel. Yep. They're delicious.
Yeah, it's totally bizarre. And yeah, you do run into these things where you end up hurting groups that probably don't deserve to be hurt. No group deserves to be heard. Even the Scientologists have to say, look, you're all nuts, but I can't stop you from being nuts. That's your right as a friggin' American. Right. But you have
fight
to
speech with speech.
Yeah.
You fight speech with speech.
Yeah, exactly.
You start a different cult.
I mean, you have to be willing to come out. And let's put it this way, and then people go, well, what about built-in things? What about, you can't change your skin color. You can't choose that. Okay, but you also can't stop. Let's say all the white people get together and we really decide to be the horrible monster everyone claims we are. And we decide to go, let's take all the rights away from people and blah, 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 blah. And someone goes, hey, whites, what are you up to? And we go, whoa, whoa, whoa. What'd you say about the whites? That's hate speech, buddy. We're giving you the ability to speak out against oppression as well. I mean, that's what people don't understand when they want to take speech away. It drives me nuts. I talk to these leftists. They go, well, hate speech should be illegal. I'm like, who do you want to define that for you? And they're like, the government. And I'm like, okay, who's your current president? And at the time it was Trump. They go, Trump. And I go, to be clear, do you want Donald Trump to have the ability to tell you which groups you're allowed to talk shit about? And they're like, well, he wouldn't be the only one. I'm like, no, you are not thinking this through. You don't give that power to anybody.
It's all about precedent setting.
Yeah. That's exactly. It's precedent. It's a slippery slope because you don't know if if Hitler's going to come back from the dead in a robot body, assume the presidency because he's the most charismatic motherfucker alive. Yep. I hate to say, you put that guy on the stage, he might get back in there. I've seen him.
Oh yeah.
All right. So Mecha Hitler takes over, and next thing you know, he's saying it's illegal to criticize the Reich and whatever else. And you go, well, fuck. I mean, we liked when we were just saying you can't say shit about black people and gay people, but now that we handed him that power, he's able to abuse it. Which is why you put a line in the sand and you go, you know what, you can't change it for any other reason because somebody could abuse that at any point. No matter how much sense it might make sense in your head, it's just going to lead to something horrible at some point. And sometimes, if we look at other countries, it already has. In other countries, people are being arrested for making very common sense criticisms of, again, Muslims being anti-LGBT, I don't want a biological male in my prison, my female prison. There's all sorts of questions. Right. And again, speech to speech, have the discussion. Don't just go, well, you can't talk about it. You're not allowed to talk about it.
Well, ironically, because the super hyper leftist SJW types, they go on and on about power, but really freedom of speech, it benefits people who are not in positions of power more because people who are in power, they don't need freedom of speech. Like they're already at the top. But if you're a nobody and society doesn't care for you, guess what? You still have the same freedoms that somebody else in a position of power has. You can freely go out and criticize whatever powerful institutions there are, and you can do it freely. Like that's the beauty of freedom of speech. That was
the whole point. And I feel like I bring this case up every single episode, but it's the Skokie, Illinois case, right? When the ACLU actually stood for something. There's this amazing documentary I recommend everyone watch. It's called The Mighty Ira. I think it's on HBO, and it's about the neo-Nazis marching through the town of Skokie, Illinois, that was not only heavily Jewish but heavily Holocaust survivor. Right? A lot of the residents were Holocaust survivors, and it was why the hell would a Jewish lawyer of all lawyers, but any lawyer, but a Jewish lawyer defend the neo-Nazis wanting to march through this town of Holocaust survivors? It's because one, their message sucks. And if you put the message out there, you let the marketplace of ideas ruin it. If you make it go underground, it gains power and traction. Two, you fight speech with speech. you can counter protest. No one, just like you did, Vito, like you went and you counter protest the protest. That's also allowed. And then 3, and most importantly, is that if you shut this down, then the next group that's going to be shut down is Malcolm X, or it's going to be a student group, Republican or Democrat or whatever. It's going to be some other person, a Bernie Sanders or a Ben Shapiro, whatever it is. And if you set the precedent, then it'll come for you. That's one of the themes that I always say, like it always comes for you. And people aren't seeing that. And this is mainly a criticism of the left, aren't seeing that now with when they try and shut down speech. At the same time, though, I will criticize the right on, it's not a speech issue, well, kind of, but with something like the Patriot Act. The Patriot Act, the right thought it was only going to be used against, crazy Muslims. And guess what? Now it's being used against white Americans. And mainly, well, not all white men, but that's the point, is the quote unquote domestic terrorists, which could be parents protesting their school boards, or someone who just like has a MAGA flag or something like that. And they didn't see what they were setting the precedent for. They thought it was only going to be used overseas, but now the war on terror has come home and you're the target. So you have to really stick up for the principle, not for what you think it's going to be used for.
Right. Yeah. That's where we get into trouble. And you can't set these precedents. It really does. It always leads to something bad. You go, well, what could possibly go wrong? And then immediately you're like, oh, we live in a terrorist regime and we can't say anything. It's like, it goes wrong. Look at any society across history. You make these good intentioned laws and then you get fucked. So you got to be very on the... The founders knew this. The founders looked at it and they went, look, man, just let people, we'll talk it out. That's what makes it great. Because they lived in these societies where it's like, well, you can't say that or you're going to be hung for heresy or whatever else. And they went, that never works. It always leads to madness. So we'll just let it. You can say whatever you want. And hopefully people aren't complete morons and will eventually find their way to the truth.
Look at it's kind of funny because like if the protesters, the people who walked out at Netflix, if they'd have just ignored you and Dick Masterson was
Dick Masterson, my co-host.
If they'd have just ignored you guys probably would have had a pretty boring video and it probably whatever. We'll just keep doing our thing.
It wouldn't have been that interesting.
Exactly. Yeah, but the fact that they made such a big deal about it, and it's like, okay, all you do is amplify these two guys that you're so much against. I mean, it's.
They haven't caught that either. They haven't figured that out either. That they're just amplifying like other voices.
I'm glad they haven't figured it out. The second they figure it out, I'm out of a job. Look, people.
We'll cut that out of this
people
episode.
And they go, I can't believe when he stole your sign. I would have been so mad. I would have punched that guy. I was the happiest man in the world. I was like, thank you so much. Thank you.
I'm sorry. That moment when the Netflix guy, was it Cristalli?
Joe Cristalli. He's a writer. He does a bunch of stuff.
When
he wrote for like How I Met Your Mother.
Yeah, and Frasier, right? That's the reboot or whatever. When he not only ripped the sign out of your hand and broke it, but then yelled, "He's got a weapon." To me, that is so disturbing. And this is the ilk that was like the Black Lives Matter, don't call the police because, it could lead to more violence, all of that. And they did that exact thing. Yeah. They created this situation and then like called to action more violence.
Yeah. Well, I have this conversation all the time with a buddy of mine, the great Mr. Girl. You can also find him on YouTube. And it's always the hypocrisy is what drives you up a wall.
Yes.
You have these people who go, oh my God, I never want harm to come to anybody. What matters is keeping people safe. And then you have something like the Rittenhouse trial, and they go, I hope that kid gets raped to death in prison. And you're like, who are you fucking people? Make up your fucking mind. What are you talking about?
I like the one now. I like the one now that's like, I forget what account it is. It might be like something posting their L's, and it's, talking about healthcare for all and Medicare for all and all of that. And then it's like, it's Occupy Democrats or something, and now it's if the Illinois is making unvaccinated people pay for their own health care now, if they aren't, if they're unvaccinated and they get COVID, they pay for their health care. It's like, you guys are just celebrating Medicare for all, where it doesn't matter if you're a smoker or you're
exactly.
not healthy, or you have a pre-existing condition. Like, that's the point. But now it's because someone doesn't want to get the vaccine, they should pay out of pocket for their for whatever illness they get, or COVID, or whatever it is. So yeah, it's a hypocrisy. That's kind of why we started this podcast, to be honest. Joe and I were just got sick of the hypocrisy, and I was like, wait, you hate it? I hate it too. Let's start a podcast.
Yeah.
It drives you up a wall. You go crazy because you're like, guys, I hate the lack of consistency on both sides, which is why I personally, I don't play the game. I don't identify as a Democrat. I don't identify as a Republican. I think both sides right now go out of their way to claim they have one set of standards when they have the exact opposite. They accuse their opponents of being liars, and then they go, well, it's okay when we lie, though, because we're doing it for the right reason. It drives me up a fucking wall. So I've just said, finally, I'm done with it. I'm done with all of this. I truly hope at some point some third party emerges, or just, I don't know, we get back to having, like, why don't we have a dozen candidates and they all have no affiliation whatsoever, and you got to actually, fuck this party bullshit. Because we've reduced everything down to this right or left side debate, which makes no sense, because every issue you have to examine individually. But we come down to, well, on Kyle Rittenhouse, if you are a Trump voter or a right-wing guy, you have to support him. And if you're a left-wing person, you have to think he's a white supremacist. And I go, hey, man, I'm a heavily left-leaning guy, and I think that kid shot a bunch of psychopaths who were trying to kill him. And that's his fucking right. And they go, no, you're in league with the fucking, you're on the side of evil now. And I'm like, okay, well, I mean, I'm just telling you what I saw in the fucking video. Like, I have a brain in my head. And it drives me nuts that we're supposed to play this weird game where, no, don't think for yourself. Just go toe the line, and that's going to push our party forward. I hate it. It's driving me up a wall.
Yeah. And the hypocrisy thing, like I can respect somebody who I think is wrong on most issues, as long as they're consistent. It's like, okay, but at least you're applying the same logic to everything. But like now, it's like, you're only applying logic to when it benefits you, and then when something goes against your views, then you disregard that logic and you just come up with some other weird thing to justify it.
Yeah,
that's what bothers me about this. Like, I don't care if you're wrong. I don't care if I disagree with you or not. It's just, at least be consistent. At least apply everyone to the same principle.
You got to be willing to take an L. We got to get back to the point where taking an L, instead of rubbing it in everybody's face. See, that's kind of part of the problem, is we have a culture where it goes, oh, you were wrong. You're an idiot. No, you got to go. If somebody comes out and they go, you know what? I got this one wrong. You got to stand up and applaud, and you go, you're the bravest fucking man in America. God bless you, and God bless your heart.
Well,
we live in a society. No, we don't. Apologies have become a weapon. If someone apologizes, you always tell people, don't apologize. It does nothing. It used to be a man apologized. You went, well, good on you, man. Good on you for, standing up for the truth and admitting you were wrong. Now we go, see, he knows he's a piece of shit. That's why he's apologizing. He was wrong. We won. And no, it's not a winning or losing thing. Fuck this. What is happening?
I say don't apologize when I see too many times the person isn't wrong. They're pressured into apologizing because they said something that, according
offended
to
the wrong group.
When like the first one that comes to mind was the Mumford & Sons banjoist who like read Andy No's book and was like, it's interesting, and people are like, white supremacist, racist, and then he had to like quit the band and like publicly apologize, and he kind of like apologized for the apology, like the Larry David gift, like I apologize for his apology. And, and I actually messaged him at first, like, good on you, dude, like, don't back down, you said the right, like, that's fine. And then he did that. I'm like, you fucking caved, man, like, just stick to your guns. So that's when I say don't apologize. If you're actually wrong, one of the best things you can do is apologize, right? That's what we're saying. But I do see too often people just apologize because they think that will get them back in the good graces of their critics, when really they just smell blood in the water. Then you're just a floating corpse and they're sharks. Like, so.
Yeah, we're in it's a complicated situation all around. I mean, the big complication is, and as I always tell people, is, I mean, we have to acknowledge the role that capitalism plays in speech, is that you have to put food on the table. And that's an unfortunate reality. So I got upset when I went out to the protest, and I'm like, why are we the only people here? Like, every comedian in Los Angeles should be here beating on a drum, standing up for comedy.
I asked Joe, why weren't I live in New Jersey? Joe, you live in LA. Why weren't you there?
I was busy that day. I was protesting a different company.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, to be fair, we could have probably organized something. We could have told comedians to come out. I only went because the day before I'm like, oh fuck, that protest is coming up. I wanted to go to that. So luckily, I
actually think it was more powerful because it was just like the two of you, or maybe there were a few other people, but I think that made it like kind of more powerful because it amplified like you guys more than just like, because if it was
against the mob,
because if it was a larger counter protest in a way that is better, like that's nice. It'd be great if there was such a large counter protest that it drowned out the protest, right? That was the point of the counter protesting the neo-Nazis. Like, let them speak, but counter protest it and show that no, this is the right speech. But at the same time, I think because it focused so much on you and you weren't some, crazy MAGA
hate monger. No, and I'm not.
Right.
That's the thing that I think also drives them nuts is they have this idea in their head and they go, well, anyone who would protest that must be a hate monger. And I go, nah, man, I just really like jokes. And I think you guys are being kind of nuts. And I think I'm within my rights to say that. And I think that drove more nuts than anything.
Well, it's funny that that's such a revolutionary statement to say nowadays. I mean, it's like there was no profanity, there were no racial slurs. It was just like, we like jokes, we like Dave Chappelle. Like,
yes, that's what made it so funny. It was the most innocuous, like plain signs that you could have made, and they lost their shit. Like, we like Dave, like motherfuckers.
Kill him, kill the heretic. Like, guys, it's cool, man, it's fine. I mean, look, I'm not gonna pretend we're not being like kind of obnoxious with chanting.
It's okay.
And,
is that illegal yet to be obnoxious?
No. Well, that's the thing is people are like, how dare you protest their protest? I'm like, how dare they protest to begin with? Like, what are you talking about? We have the same fucking rights as anything else. If they want to have a private little shindig and go into a private room and talk about their feelings, I can't stop them. Sure. The second you go out on the street, I have the ability to go boo, you Wendy Testerberger, boo. So
well, it's just how selfish this whole thing of like we got to deplatform or we got to get rid of this, we got to ban this comedian off of this platform or whatever. I mean, it's like for me, the way I look at this stuff, it's like, I don't care what offends you. I care about what you do with your offense. Because I think everybody has sort of like irrational offenses. There are things that offend me that other people would think are dumb and trivial, but that's fine. I deal with it on my own, right? But now it's this point where it's like, I'm offended, therefore everybody else should be offended by it as well.
Yeah.
And I don't want anybody else to be able to enjoy this. And so that's the thing. Like if people said, I'm not going to watch Dave Chappelle, and then his numbers went down, that would have been more harmful for Dave Chappelle's career than protesting and making a big shtick out of it.
Yeah. And we also have, I mean, I saw yesterday, there's Will Wheaton from Star Trek. Do you remember that guy?
I just saw that, the Facebook thing. Yeah.
Yeah, so yesterday Will puts out a thing because Dave Chappelle's getting to host a Netflix, comedy festival, which is kind of Netflix saying, yeah, we still support this guy, fuck you, which is great.
Nice to see. Very nice to see, actually.
Very nice to see, because if it was just like, oh, we're going to leave a special up and we're not going to say anything publicly, but saying, no, he's in charge of our festival is very much saying Dave's not in the wrong and we support what he's doing. So anyway, Will Wheaton, this horrible nerd who's always the worst, he goes, I can't believe they were doing this, and anyone who associates with Dave Chappelle is a bigot. And at one point he goes in his thing, and this is the mentality they all have, is he goes, when an entire community tells you that a man is causing them hurt and you support that, you're enabling that hurt. And I go, an entire community, Will Wheaton, I have had conversations with trans people. Very, very influential trans people. Some of them got a blue check mark. Let's be real, on Twitter. Okay. And they went, hey man, good on you. Thank you for going to that protest. A lot of these, transgender campaigners are out there and they do not represent all of the transgender community, no matter what they say. And a lot of them are just out there for clout and fame. There was the one who was, organizing it and says, I love everybody. And then we went and looked at her tweets and it's all like, except Asian people. I just fucking hate Asian people. And you're like, what the fuck is this? What do you mean? What are you talking about? Yeah, it was super weird. It was super weird how racist it was. And so to say, well, an entire community has decided this is hurtful. No, they haven't. And in a way, it's kind of offensive to ascribe that to them, to say you guys are a hive mind and you all agree that Dave Chappelle is hurtful, right? No, there's a lot of transgender people go, no, he said he made some jokes. I mean, let's be real. I want to get my dick cut off. That's kind of funny. It's kind of a radical thing. You know, as I always say, it's the first time in human history that cutting off your dick is the bravest thing in the world. Like, oh my God, good on you, buddy. Like, how can we not talk about that? We have to talk about that. It's a radical concept. And I also argue that if you want, you know, transgender people to be more accepted and whatever else, you're going to get there by talking about this stuff, even in a joking way. When you go, you know, why would a guy cut off his dick? I can't believe it, you know, whatever. But I guess it makes him feel better. At least you're having the discussion, you know?
Yeah.
And it's getting you closer to being like, well, yeah, that's just the thing that happens. And as weird as it might seem, you know, if it really makes them happy, what can I do?
Right.
I mean, I still think it's nuts. And the idea of cutting off my dick, I'm like, oh my God, I don't want to do it. But at least we're having the discussion. But they wanted to shut that discussion down. And they don't understand that you're not going to get to acceptance by telling people, well, you're not allowed to talk about it. Because then people are just going to go, okay, well, then you guys are fucking insane because you're telling me I can't even like talk about how weird it is. You're going to get to acceptance by being like, yes, it's fucking weird. Okay, homosexuality used to be seemed like so fucking weird. Why would a guy have sex with another guy? That's crazy. I would never do that. But then, you know, gay guys, we made some jokes about it. We put them in movies. People had a laugh, like, you know. But then eventually you go, yeah, but they're happy. You know, they're regular guys just like us. Who gives a shit?
That's what I was going to say. It normalized. Like, I think putting it in jokes and stand-up specials, and it normalizes it, and people do become just like. So another thing that just astonished me was it seems like the gender issues. I don't just like say trans because like trans is like very much a real thing. I don't. Some people do still debate that, but like it's all this other stuff that I think you have people who have to do literally nothing with their bodies. They can just identify, right? You just identify queer. As this,
You're
right?
Queer.
And then they all of a sudden move up what Joe and I talk about as the victimization pyramid above like a black guy.
Black
like,
people? What drives me crazy is whenever transgender people go, you do not understand the violence against my community. I go, I don't think you understand the violence against the black community. Because if you did, you would shut up.
Like you
only talk
like
about that.
White progressive, like totally like they haven't had any surgeries. They just identify, and all of a sudden they get to call people like Dave Chappelle, who I believe grew up in poverty. I mean, he grew up in DC. I don't know exactly. Worked his ass off, became like this pinnacle of comedy, and now because you identify as something, like you get to now basically attack this. It seems very anti-progressive to me.
Right.
Yeah, it is insane, and I don't want to, be a numbers guy, but whenever you go, they always go, oh, the transgender community. You hear from all these people, there's this weird myth that transgender people are being murdered by the millions.
Statistically untrue.
And you're like, bro, what are you talking about? And they're like, and it's always like, well, I read this article and it says, 2022 was the deadliest year on record for transgender people, and you go, yeah, because there's 50,000 new transgender people. If you add 50,000 people to a population, the odds that one or two of them might get killed go up a little bit. So the numbers are staying the same. And they're like, well, can you believe there was 45 hate crimes? You go, hate crimes? No, 45 people got murdered. People get murdered for all sorts of reasons. Robbery, domestic. I mean, that's the thing. Half the crimes, it's like, got punched by her boyfriend, or, shot by her boyfriend or her husband. I'm like, that guy must have been a transphobe. He was married to a trans woman. How are you going to say that's a transphobic hate crime? For the love of God. That transphobe really had his way. You're like, no, that doesn't count as one of the hate crimes. You don't get to have that one.
Coincidentally, so first of all, what happens now in our society, and in a way, maybe it's gotten worse or better. I don't know, because you can fact check stuff more now than it used to be a handful of papers or sources or whatever. But coincidentally, the Jussie Smollett verdict came out an hour ago, right? He was guilty, by the way, 5 out of 6. The same thing, which just was patently untrue from the beginning. But that's obviously nothing to do with trans. But in a similar thing, I remember there were reports coming out of Portland, Oregon, that like white supremacists were just on the hunt for trans people in Portland, Oregon. Again, like one of the most progressive cities in America. Right. Just like you wouldn't find two MAGA guys walking down downtown Chicago with bleach and a noose, like the same thing. But they just report it at like matter-of-factly. When in reality,
it happened. Absolutely.
Then when some journalists look into it, and it's like, no, not only did this not happen, what really happened was like some trans person got drunk and fell and reported to the police that she got beat up by white supremacists. And then it like conflagrates into this like what roving white supremacists in Portland, Oregon attacking trans women.
We live in a time of absurd misinformation. I don't know what we're supposed to do about it. And that's why I go nuts with this both sides thing as I go, especially when people go, well, you can't trust the media. The only people you can choose is like Patriot News XXX.L. And I'm like, no.
Right.
Yeah, I can only trust Big Tommy's USA News #1. He gives me all the straight facts. And I go, that motherfucker is lying to you just as hard as anyone in the mainstream media. And 90% of the time, it's way worse.
Right.
We have to somehow train our society to be like, you have a brain. Stop believing every conspiracy that comes your way. Conspiracies are fun. They're great. Okay. But you have to have some actual facts. You can't just go, well, there's a picture of this guy with the Clintons, which means he's out there assassinating people on their behalf. It's like, no, you can't just draw that. You have to go, well, it's interesting and let's look into it. But ultimately right now we live in this era of insane. I mean, I went nuts. Did you see the thing recently where they're going, well, Biden was giving a speech and then he read on the teleprompter, end of quote, because, he's reading off a teleprompter and he hasn't prepared this stuff. And I go, that's like a very common thing when you quote somebody and you want to make it clear that you've stopped quoting them and you're now gone back to saying what you want to say. You say end of quote, and then you continue talking. I don't know how hundreds of thousands of people have apparently never heard the phrase end of quote. Not to mention that I then went and I looked, and they did the same thing to Mitt Romney like 6 years ago. He gave a speech on a stage, and he said, end of quote. And the other side went, see, he's reading a teleprompter. And you're like, no, motherfucker, this is a very common turn of phrase. Like, what are you guys doing? So it drives me up a fucking wall that people are living in this world of lies, and they're easily propagated lies. I don't know if you guys have seen my Twitter account where I just make shit up. I have a fake news account, kind of like The Onion.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so
I've seen it.
Oh my God, it's so easy to do and it's hilarious. So I have a Twitter called Victory News Net at Victory News Net. Okay, it's Victory News. The VNN, it stands for Vito. It's Vito's News Network. Okay, and if you read my profile, it says right in the profile, this is a parody news site. It's parody. Like my pinned tweet is Babylon B, give me a job, please. And multiple times I will just make up a story in an hour and it will go fucking viral. It's hilarious how stupid people are. I made one that said Ben and Jerry's is giving Joseph Rosenbaum his own flavor of ice cream, Rosenbaum's heroic hazelnut.
Oh wait, I did see that. Yeah, I did see that.
You probably saw it, right?
You saw that, yeah.
The pedophile is getting his own ice cream. And then there was one where, what do you call it? You remember that black lady was going to run in the Olympics? She got disqualified for smoking marijuana.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
So I made up a news story where I said, well, the white lady taking over for her is a Mormon woman who says she wants to teach kids to say no to drugs, and Jesus intervened to make sure she could run on the Olympic team. And that went like insanely viral. Again, the idea that some lady steps out, she's like, Jesus forced my opponent to smoke marijuana so I could be on the Olympics.
Wait, what's it again? I'm on a Victory News Network that looks like it's actually like super.
So there's like some Christian one, but if you're on Twitter,
this is you. The Ben and Jerry's. Okay. Victory News Network, VNN.
Victory News Network. Okay. Oh, I made it look good. I was
like, this looks like an actual like right wing.
Yeah, dude, it looks like a right wing news site. Yeah. I said Kyle Rittenhouse. Okay,
Twitch channel.
I'm surprised.
Joseph the Rosenbaum's very funny.
Yeah,
R. Kelly transferred to juvenile detention center.
The R. Kelly trial, there was a mistake in the paperwork, and he had to go to a juvie for 6 months.
I just followed it. That's good. Yeah.
But what's crazy is, again, nobody stops to think, all right, hold on. Did Ben & Jerry's really make pedophile ice cream? And again, all they have to do is click on my profile and it will tell you this is parody. It's a joke.
Yeah.
Okay. Because I'm upfront about my misinformation. I go, I'm going to label it. It's a joke. I want you to know. Yeah. But you look at these other sites that don't label it. And they are pushing fake information. And it is so, if I can go viral for saying there's pedophile ice cream, look at all these other fake stories that go viral that are just made up from whole cloth. And it is disturbing how easy it is to spread on social media, because one guy sees it, reposts it, he might take a screenshot, and then there is no link back to me that says it's parody. Like, it is crazy how much this fake news spreads. And that's how, again, we get into a situation where you go, did you hear 1 million trans people got murdered last year? And you go, no, hold on. Yeah. Like, where are you getting this fact from?
Well, I believed in a healthy skepticism of pretty much everything. And I don't know what happened to that. Yeah. Like, whether I'm skeptical of the police and I'm skeptical of Antifa and I'm skeptical of Black Lives Matter and the Democrats and the Republicans and any new party too, I'm skeptical about until they show me otherwise.
The problem is that people aren't skeptical enough of their own side. They go, well, I know my own side and they would never lie to me. Why would the Democrats ever lie to me?
Yeah.
If Joe Biden tells me Kyle Rittenhouse is a white supremacist, he's the president.
Yeah.
Or if Trump tells me 2.7 million votes were deleted by Dominion voting systems, a figure backed up by literally nothing in the history of the world.
No.
I'm going to believe it because he's the president. He's on my side.
Yeah.
You got to go, no, I want the actual facts. Like, I don't know why we let people get away with this. I don't care if you like Trump, and I know a lot of people do. You have to take him to task when he tweets out Dominion voting systems deleted 2.7 million Trump votes. Do you know how easy it would be to spot that?
Yeah.
To go, 2.7 million votes went missing. That's weird. Right. Like, you could just check it against the voter rolls. Like, you would know if votes got deleted. But no, everybody just goes, no, because it confirms my bias. It makes sense to what well, he says other stuff that's true. He got it wrong one time. No. Don't make excuses. Like, when you say something as ridiculous, I think Biden should apologize for calling Kyle Rittenhouse a white supremacist. I think Trump should apologize for saying 2.7 million votes got deleted.
Yeah.
I think, again, when you say something that is a blatant falsehood, it is your job to correct the record and say, I got it wrong. And we shouldn't trust people who can't do that. If you can't come out and correct the record when you're wrong, and you just spew bullshit and you get it right half the time, I don't know why we give people that pass. It drives me nuts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's why I don't trust comedians, because they never apologize and they never say that they're going to do better. And
I do give comedians a pass. Comedians are allowed to stretch the truth because it's funny.
I don't want us to start. I don't want us to start shutting down satire, because I also have a burner, which I'm not going to make public. Joe knows what it is, but it's like a super.
I told everyone.
It's like a super progressive, kind of just like ridiculous neo-lib burner. And today I tweeted before this. So if someone like searches this and discovers that's fine.
It's like one of those fake libs, and it's fine.
Yeah, it's like
it. People know, they go, oh, that's a fake account.
Well, a lot of people don't. A lot of people don't get it, actually, which is that's what's scary to me.
That is part of it. Yeah, like satire can trick a certain number of people.
Yeah.
The question is, is the satire being done in good faith? You're doing it to be funny, legitimately.
Yes.
There are some people who are going out there and they're like, I'm going to trick people into thinking every Democrat rapes a kid. And you're like, well, hold on.
No, it's not.
Let's be fair. But some people aren't fair. And again, some people think, well, if it's on the side of good, because I'm on the side of good, I can do whatever I want.
This is more just for fun. This isn't like to push any Pizzagate shit. This would be more like I tweeted. I'll pull it up.
Well, no, because you're gonna give it away. You can give us a generic.
That's fine. It's the Jesse Smollett verdict is proof that this is a white supremacist country. If he imagined that 2 maggots attacked him, then that is enough. How does everyone not understand this? Hashtag get this for juicy. Hashtag BLM. Hashtag DNC. Hashtag MAGA. Hashtag trans women are women. Hashtag end Asian hate.
Hashtag trans women are women. Trans rights are human rights, as we all. Which again, we also get into this slogan culture where nobody has a thought in their head.
Yeah.
The Kyle Rittenhouse went across state lines. Do you guys think that if you keep saying that it's like going to become a crime to go across state lines?
Yeah.
What are you talking about?
I had to, and I didn't mean to like, I was talking with someone and just point by point, I had to just keep debunking every single fact about the Kyle Rittenhouse case. I'm like, just listen, this isn't the right case to attack. Like, here's why. This one, first of all, he lived 20 miles from Kenosha. I drive over 50 miles twice a day to get to and from work in the same small state. So it's not like it's far. Second of all, he has family in Kenosha. Third of all, the gun was not illegal. Like every single thing that they push to just debunk, like, no, that's not true. This is what actually happened. No, that's not true. And that's just like on one side, I'm like, you're just being fed the wrong information. And yeah, it's confirmation bias. And you want to believe that. Like, people thought he killed black people. Yeah. People actually believe that that the people he shot were black people, which like the most, so that brings me to my other point is like, while I kind of feel bad for you because you are just getting these bullshit facts. Well, they're not facts, these lies. At the same time, like the most minimal research, if something you're going to be passionate about, do the most minimal research, you will see that all of this is bullshit. So
right.
It's insanity. I'm going insane over here. Like I've got to the point where I'm driving around and I'm going, you know what? This humanity thing, it's a fun little game.
Yeah.
I can't save these people. I'm just going to let them, run themselves in circles, trying to point fingers at everybody and believing in all these conspiracies. Right. And what can you do? You can't get people to listen or reason. Right. I think the only thing we can do is we have to have a concentrated effort to be like, listen, if you get lied to, that liar needs to make amends. We need to hold them. We need to stop enshrining. That's what drove me so nuts about Trump is I would go to people, and I don't care. I like Trump as a bombastic guy. I think he's an interesting personality, and I'm sure that he truly wants to help America. Sure. But I don't like when a politician lies to me. And I would talk to Trump supporters and I'd go, do you think Trump lies? And they go, oh yeah, that motherfucker lies all the time. And I'd go, all right. And I'd go, do you like when politicians lie? No, politicians should lie. Politicians should be honest. They have to represent the people. But Trump lies. Yeah, that guy's great. And I'm like, we need to come to an agreement of you can like Trump for, getting in everybody's face. He's pissing off all the right people. Sure. But if he's giving you bad information, if he's lying to you, again, even if there was sneaky stuff with the election or whatever, you got to treat that dead seriously. You can't go out and just tweet every new random conspiracy theory that comes across your desk.
Right.
All right. That's not the way to handle that, especially as the president of the United States. You go, we're going to investigate the voting machines. We have some serious issues with how this was handled, and we're going to take a look at it, and we're going to do whatever we can to get to the bottom. You don't go, well, Newsmax, I was watching Newsmax. No. Right. Newsmax is not going to give it to you. One American News Network is not going to give it to you. You go, we're going to handle this professionally, like a professional country, like a professional government. And we're not going to rely on crazy right-wing conspiracy theories and whatever. I'm not going to have the My Pillow guy lead the charge. Okay, we're going to have a crack team of investigators, not Mike Lindell from My Pillow.
It makes your side. It makes your side better if you're willing to hold it to a higher standard. If like, hey, look, we can't be lying. We can't be getting away with this shit. Come on, like, get rid of whichever side you're on. But look, this person can't lead us. This person can't represent us.
I say this to both also. It's like there are enough legitimate criticisms of, for instance, I don't like Trump. I've never voted for him. I liked some of the things he stood for, middle finger to the establishment, all that, whatever. He ended up being pretty establishment himself. But like, it would be like I do a lot of verbal memes. So like verbal meme, like you dislikes Trump because he said like, build the wall or stand down Proud Boys. I dislike Trump because he fucking greenlit Dr. Fauci to keep funding the Wuhan lab that Obama shut down that caused this whole fucking pandemic. Like, that's why I don't like Trump. Not because he said like China virus or Kung Flu, which I think is funny, actually. Yeah. I think Kung Flu is funny.
And it's not lying. He's not lying. Like, that's the thing. Like, you can say he's offensive or whatever, but I don't really give a shit about that. They're saying, oh, well, that's going to result in Asian people getting killed.
Like, no,
again, that's another
fucking
that's another part of lying that I think is very upset is exaggeration of harm.
Yes, and it's dangerous in itself is to be like, all these people are attacking this group of people, and then it's like, then those people are gonna like be on edge and kind of maybe retaliate at like the slightest hint of a provocation. So like it actually makes it super dangerous. It's also, you're just lying to it's the perfect example was the fiery but mostly peaceful protest. It's like, I can see with my eyes that this is not peaceful. Just say it's not peaceful. Say it got out of hand.
Call it a riot. Why not?
Yes.
We called them the LA riots. It didn't mean that the people rioting are like horrible fucking people necessarily.
Well,
like,
some were and some weren't.
Some were and some weren't.
Some were mad and some were taking
legitimately
advantage of the situation. Exactly.
What was I gonna say? I completely forgot. Go ahead.
Well, I do the same thing with like, and sorry, just the last one. I'll say the other side. It's like on the right wing side, people will be like, well, Ilhan Omar married her brother or whatever. It's like, no, like Ilhan Omar sucks, and like rip on her for legitimate things that she sucks at, not like some conspiracy theory attacking her character.
She might have married her brother.
Wait, is that true?
Yeah, dude.
Oh. All right. Well,
breaking news. No,
wait. Let's put it this way: it's never been completely disproven in any meaningful respect.
Oh, fuck! All right, so she married her brother.
But you should look into it. And there was a guy who is like, listen, man, I got DNA off her cigarette. I got DNA off her brother's cigarette. I sent it to a lab, and he's got like behind, like photos of them smoking cigarettes of where he got them from. He's like, they're brother and sister. Now, they weren't having like sex. It was more like, hey, I want to immigrate to America. And if I marry this guy, I get instant citizenship.
Right.
But yeah, that's one of those ones. That's one of those ones that you should look into.
Fucking brother, what the hell?
And I could, now here's the thing is, but I'll even say, I'm not 100% sure on that. But from what I've seen, I know it's very much a gray area. It has more validity to me than the Obama was not born in America stuff. This is one where I'm like, all right, I could maybe see this happening. I was going to say, we've also, I mean, here's why the left loses. The left loses because we don't stick to our guns. The left was supposed to be, we're the party of science. We love science. Science is so important. COVID is going to kill you. If you go out in a big group, COVID's going to kill you. And then the Black Lives Matter protests start. And you go, but COVID's not as important as standing up for black people.
It's racism is the real virus. It's like, it's not. The virus is the real virus. Just like words aren't violence. Violence is violence. It's the same concept.
I don't know how the left gets bullied into having to be progressive all the time. All the scientists have to go is say, listen, we support the Black Lives Matter movement, or we understand their right to protest. We just urge people caution and hope that people will social distance because we are worried about that. But no, they all went, no, this is more important than a global pandemic. And you're like, all right, well, now you have no leg to stand on with science. When you want everyone to take, when you want everyone to take a vaccine, they go, well, can't I just go to a protest? If I go to a protest, do I not have to take the vaccine? Because that's more important. Like, just figure out what your standards are, figure out what lines you care about, and actually stick to it. Stop going, no, it's okay because blah, 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 and I want to be a good person.
No.
I think that was one of my biggest eye-opening red pill moments, so to speak, is first it was the Covington Catholic kids. That was just a complete lie how they spun that. Then it kind of like what they tried to do with you, Vito, in the somehow some publications framed you saying, making it maybe
shouting profanity.
Shouting profanity, transphobic speech was,
I was
not
pushing
true.
Against them. And I'm like, all right, man, I don't know what you're talking about. Like, you can watch the videos.
Yeah, exactly.
I didn't do nothing to nobody. Was I the nicest guy in the world? No, I'm like, hey, we like jokes, and I was, cracking my own jokes and whatever else. Like, I was clearly, being an annoyance.
I couldn't imagine anyone being, to be honest, like, I couldn't imagine anyone handling it any better. Like, people were in your face. They were yelling at you. They legally assaulted you. And you were just saying, like, we like Dave, we like Joe. To me, I wouldn't have. That's why I can't go to this shit. Like, I would have started throwing down.
Yeah.
Like,
we have that conversation with people as we go. If you want to represent a side, but you don't think you can restrain yourself from being violent, then don't go, because you're going to be counterproductive, and you're going to, because they tried. I mean, there was some Antifa website that went, this proves that Dave Chappelle is sparking violence because Vito Gesualdi and Dick Masterson went there and started choking people. And we're like, we did what now? What did we do to who? Okay. And luckily, this was some fringe Antifa website making shit up.
Yeah.
But if the actual media had, footage of me and Dick with baseball bats beating up trans people, well, then they win that conversation. Yes, Dave Chappelle is inspiring hate. We have clear video evidence of it right here. And that's what they want to get. Instead, these guys showed that they're nutbags. They're breaking people's shine. They have their own Antifa enforcers shoving people around. They're shaking tambourines in people's faces, blowing whistles when you try to be on, the news is interviewing me and someone's blowing a whistle so they can't hear me. And you guys, you lose. You lost.
Yeah.
You've played this terribly, and now you've lost the game. And congratulations.
Well, when watching that footage, there were several people who were saying, Dave Chappelle, he normalizes hate towards trans people or this, and that's always a weird argument against an edgy comedian, that it normalizes hate towards a group or that it perpetuates a negative stereotype of something. And it's like, okay, but like, what are the real world effects of that? Like if the KKK was using Dave Chappelle's special, that's kind of a stretch, but if they were using that thing to push like anti-Black or anti-gay campaigns, I can see their argument. Like, hey, this thing is actually leading to a resurgence of white nationalism or the KKK or something. But it's like, we laugh, we watch the show for an hour, we laugh, and then we go back to being a husband or a wife, or go back to our daily jobs. Like, nobody watches Dave Chappelle and goes, oh, I'm gonna start beating up trans people now. Like that doesn't happen.
No, not at all. Yeah, it's they know they're lying. They know they're stretching the truth in so many different ways, and it's weird that we don't take them to task for it, but that's just the way it is.
I love the guy who tried to like lawyer you on incitement laws or something. That's when I want to step in. I want to be like, well, actually,
yeah. There's so much footage of that. There's so much footage of like, words are violence. Like, again, these people have these buzzwords that they hear. Don't punch down. Trans rights are human rights. And you go, all right, I want to have a conversation with you. All right, let's have a theoretical situation. Again, it's a prison. There's a woman who's, in a cell. Should she be forced to share the cell with a individual who still has a penis and was convicted of some sort of rapey crime or whatever the hell else? And they think about it for a second and they go, well, trans rights are human rights. And you go, no. Can we have a conversation? You can't just go rely on these buzzwords to get. They're not like they're like crib notes for these people who don't have a thought in their heads. Well, he crossed state lines. There you go. I mean, there's no other discussion to have.
Well, the thing is that so many of, I don't mean to just say like these people or whatever it is, but the loud voices, the progressive, woke, whatever you want to call it, because it's not even all progressives, right? I'm not saying that. It's like this subset, but they all generally live in cities and they are all together and they're never challenged because the schools they went to probably all supported what they were saying. Then they congregate with people, like-minded people, and even people who don't agree with them generally don't say anything. So then when you do challenge them, and I've seen this more and more, because I will be that voice that challenges them, and they really don't have a response except for, well, I don't like hate speech or whatever is human rights, or I just want to be a good person and be accepted. It's like, yeah, but that's not a policy. It's not an argument, right? That's just a platitude that doesn't go anywhere. And when you actually do that, they they kind of just flounder, or they resort to actual violence, like breaking a sign because they're so like flustered, like, I can't win with words, so I'm going to use violence. Like that's what they do, and they're actually the ones who are violent when you're just trying to use speech.
Well, my favorite thing in my video is when there's that lady and she goes, all white people, are racist because this is a racist country. And I go, well, which races are you racist towards? And she's like, well, we all are racist. I'm like, okay, but are there any races that you're not racist towards? And she goes, we're all racist. And I go, well, I'm not. I don't know why you're so proud of how racist you are, but I'm not racist. And it really broke her brain when I'm like, are there any races you're not racist towards? And she can't just say, no, I'm racist towards all. Just say it. That's your ideology. No, I'm racist towards all races. Okay, then admit to it.
So I don't want to associate with a racist. I'm going to move away from you.
Right. Yeah. I go, well, you're a racist. Congratulations. I'm not proud of your racism. I don't know why you are. and maybe give it maybe stop, maybe knock it off.
Yeah, I think it was kind of tongue in cheek. I think this happened during the 2020 Great Awakening, where I think it was Princeton, go New Jersey. They did some investigation where it was like some inherently racist thing, and the government as kind of like a middle finger was like, all right, then we're gonna have to investigate you because like we're gonna have to see if you can get federal money because we can't, give money to a school that like a racist school that segregates or something like that. And they're like, whoa, wait. No, we were just like placating the activists. We're not actually saying that.
Yeah. And you're like, careful. Well, you said that you have a racist, whatever. I mean, it's the same with like, there is this crazy racism. They're now trying to make a claim that Asian people are white because that allows them to discriminate against Asian people. You see it at like Harvard where they're like, we're letting too many of these,
it's insane. It's fucking crazy. Lots of these people come from immigrant, like our first generation. Their parents don't speak English. They work their asses off, and then it's like, there's too many of you. It's like, when did that become acceptable? What the fuck is happening?
It exposes what they really think. What they really think is anyone who succeeds is the problem.
Yeah,
right. It's not whether or not you're a minority or marginalized. It's you're doing too good. We got to pull you down so everybody else can do good too. It's like, right. Just say that. Just say that.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, it's about your identity. It's like, no, you want everybody to succeed equally. And anytime anybody starts, like, the white people are doing too good. No. So we go, oh, well, we hate them and they're evil now. And you're like, well, hold on.
And it's funny is that so many of these institutions have like diversity and inclusion quotas. And it's funny with the Harvard thing, which was sort of like, we needed to let more minorities in. Okay, too many minorities. And it's like, do you not realize that what you're doing there? Like, it's so bizarre. Again, it goes back to that sort of inconsistent, hypocritical thing of like, we care about this, except when that happens.
And there's also, I mean, let's be clear. There's minorities that they care about more than others.
Yes.
They go, we love blacks. We love Hispanics, but not as much as the blacks. Yeah. Asians, we're not sure. And you're like, bro, like, just admit that you have your own weird biases based on, again, what the media has told you qualify, or what you guys have told yourself qualifies as discrimination. And they're fine and blah blah blah. Like you don't really. And then that's why the transgender thing drives me so nuts. Is that a lot of these transgender activists have figured out, well, if you're just really loud about how much you feel marginalized, that's basically the same as being marginalized. Well, you can just say, we're being murdered like crazy, and people have to believe you.
A great example is, I didn't look into this, and this like just happened today, I think, but it came out that some government official, I don't know if it's congressperson, whatever it is like now is voting against having non-citizen Latinos in New York City vote, going against that because Latinos have shifted way more to the right, and this will actually help Black people in New York City. It's like, what? Like what? Like what? So the whole point of this is they do this mental gymnastics because it's not at all about diversity. It's about it's about superficial diversity, like skin color and gender, but it's about rigid orthodoxy. Like orthodox ideology. Like you cannot step outside of that. You can be gender fluid or whatever race you want to be, but the second you step out of line of the ideology, well, no, that's where the diversity ends. And this is a perfect example of it. Like Latinos have swung so hard to Republicans that now they're like trying to make it harder for Latinos to vote in fucking New York City.
And the reason Latinos are swinging is because these stupid, progressive types come in and they go, Latinx, we're going to call them Latinx. And it's like, do they want to be called Latinx? I don't know, but that's what we're doing. That's our new thing.
I've seen, and, I've actually, this is one of the first things I've actually started to see progressives like go back, like kind of back to like, we're going to stop doing that now because they saw how much of a fucking abortion that was.
It completely fucked.
It was like not only do 2 to 3% of Latinos use that term, but like 60% find it offensive. Like don't even not have an opinion of it, but find it offensive. And it's like, you guys are the ones always talking about like colonization, imperialism. This is like imperialism of language. Like they don't use this term. It's like, Latinx. Like you have to deal. That's why. I mean, I do identify as Italian-X, but like that's different. We're not talking about my people.
Well, we got a new variant. We got the Filipinx now. So
Filipinx.
No, I'm dead serious. I don't know if you saw. I tweeted this out because there was like a cookbook, and it's called Filipinx. And so I tweeted a picture of it. I was like, oh no, a new variant. But it's just like it's
who wrote it? Who wrote it? Like Mary Sue Williams or something? like a real Filipina chef.
Yeah.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
We live in a crazy time. Look, bottom line is you got to demand good information.
Yep.
You got to educate everyone around you. What I do is I call out misinformation. It drives people nuts. They go, why do you do this all the time? Why when there's a fake news article or you're on Twitter talking about it? And I go, because I want to make your life better, and you should if you don't value what I'm doing for you, then fuck you. Because I will have people come to me in private and they send me a direct message. They go, hey man, I didn't realize that was fake. Thank you. I'm like, you're the only person I care about. Everybody else wants to live in a world of lies. Good. Fuck you. I don't care about making you happy or, placating you or whatever else. You got to call out the misinformation on all sides, including your own. And it is actually more noble to call out your own side's misinformation, to go, even though this information could benefit me and my ideology and what I believe in, I don't want to get there on a bed of lies. And it's tough to have that conviction, but you got to do it. It's what I've been doing with the Rittenhouse thing. As a good liberal, I was supposed to say that kid is a white supremacist Proud Boy killer. And I said, that is a fucking American hero, went there, got shot at by a bunch of psychopaths, and fucking held his ground, as is his right. And you can say, you don't want him there, and he, whatever, fine. You can have that argument.
Sure.
But when a crazy guy charges at you across a parking lot, you don't get to go, well, I went across state lines, so I guess I'm just going to let this happen. That's not the law. That's not how it works.
My favorite part about the end of the Rittenhouse case was when he was on Tucker and he said, like, no, I support Black Lives Matter. And like both sides was like, what the fuck? Like the head's exploding.
And I'm the only guy going, why not? Why can't he support Black Lives Matter? He didn't go there saying I want to shoot black people. No. He went there going, hey man, I think black people get a raw deal in America, but I don't think you need to burn down a car dealership to do it. Is that not the most rational take in the world? Is that?
But that's why it's so funny. Is that both sides just lost their minds when he said that?
Because they don't understand the idea of you don't have to pick a side. There are no sides. The whole side thing is an illusion. Yeah. All right. The left doesn't own Antifa. The right doesn't own Nazis. These are completely different groups. They don't necessarily belong to anybody. And when you see them doing wrong, you don't get to go, oh, there's the left again. No, there's that fringe fucking psycho group that does not represent anybody other than themselves. Yeah. And that's the bottom line.
And I got to say, I do love when shit confuses the hell out of both sides. Like somebody tweeted out recently, like, hey, wouldn't it be great if Trump went on SNL and he played
Alec Baldwin.
And it's like, yeah, what man, I'm just like talking about like throwing a grenade into our
culture. That'd be so funny.
Like,
that would have been so funny.
The hell out of that, man.
Somebody near Alec, right, or someone near Trump right now should just get a set and be like, hey, we got to go film the video. Alex, stop shooting those women. I can't stop. There's something so addictive about it. Yeah, he should be out there doing that.
Oh man. But hey,
all right, guys. What do you call it? Well, I should get back to some things. Did you have any last questions you wanted to get into?
No, I think
know, Joe. Do you have any? I'm good.
Yeah. Maybe just one last question. So what do you think is kind of like the future of comedy? Of like, are we going through a bad patch? Are things gonna get better?
Oh, we're so fucked. We're so fucked. Here's what it comes down to: is the mainstream has lost their minds. What happens is these activist psychopaths, and I think there's even good people within these organizations, but the organizations have been hijacked. It's the same thing that happened with Netflix. They go, we have some demands. And you go, all right, well, what are they? What do you want? Do you want us to do like a transgender awareness special or something? They go, no. Well, nothing. We don't want anything crazy. We just want you to put a transgender person on your board of content. And you go, oh, I know what you're doing. Because you're not going to put in some rational transgender person. Again, like these many transgender people I've talked to go, I love Dave Chappelle. I would never censor that guy. You want to install a radical pink-haired psychopath who wants to cancel content because they think it's going to bring harm to marginalized people, whatever else. And that's what you see. All these companies right now have diversity boards, and they have diversity officers, and they're training their staff to recognize, what do you call it, race, gender,
implicit bias things.
Yeah, sure. Okay, so these organizations are too far gone, and they're too afraid to fire any of these people because then you'll be called a bigot, which is the worst possible thing that can happen if you're on the left. If you're on the right, you go, yeah, I'm a bigot. I don't fucking care. If you're on the left, someone calls you a bigot, you lose your mind for some reason. You go, my God, and you fall apart. So I have no faith in the mainstream to keep comedy alive. I think the future of comedy exists on the internet. I think it exists in independent venues. And the ultimate message I want to put out there, and I know people don't like to hear it, is that money is the most powerful thing in the world. And if you actually care about speech and comedy and whatever else, I'm not going to shame you into it. And if you don't have the money, you don't have to do it. But if there is a comedy podcast you like, if there is a YouTuber you like, if there's any sort of, if you have a local comedy club in your community and you can go and buy a drink and support that financially, that's the only way we can win this thing. Okay? Because money is what runs the world and greases the fucking wheels of society. Yeah. So I right now I subscribe to as many Patreons as I can. It's all about supporting independent creators. I recently, and not even comedians, just anybody. I recently went to a comic convention, and you know what I did? I went to a dozen independent comic artists. I didn't even look at what their comic book was. I just said, how much is the comic? $5. Keep it up. Keep being independent. Keep making your own thing.
That's great. Yeah.
I don't care if it's good or bad or whatever. Just if $5 is going to help you get closer to that goal, at least you are helping break this media, what do you call it, stranglehold, this monopoly that they have, and that has value. Yeah. So, and I know not everybody has money, and that's why I would never shame anybody. But if you have a steady job, and there's a podcast you listen to every day, and you've never paid for it in your life, go subscribe to the Patreon. It's what, like $5 a month? And again, you're going to change the world. You don't even realize how much you change the world by doing that. Because that's what happens with me. I have no chance of ever having a legitimate Hollywood career at this point, I don't think. If I'm ever going to work in Hollywood, it's going to be from the shadows, because I'm always that guy who went and, made transgender people feel bad. Okay? But thank God I have the internet. I have my Patreon for myself. I have the Patreon for the podcast, Biggest Problem in the Universe, with my friend Dick Masterson. We're able to successfully, independently fund our comedy. Without that, you would not be hearing from us, and comedy would be dead. And that's where I'm at right now, is that you, the people, have the power, and take it seriously. Really take it seriously. Really think about it.
You hear that?
Folks, promote this podcast.
Subscribe to this podcast.
If you don't have money, you know what else you can do? Just take the link and post it on your. It takes no second to go on Twitter and go, I'm listening to this great podcast. I want everyone to get out there and support it. Don't be ashamed of promoting people you like and content you like. We're too ashamed for some reason. We're told, oh, you're grifting and you're trying to make money and whatever. No, we're trying to stay alive and keep not only comedy but free speech alive. I take it very seriously.
And we appreciate that.
Yeah. No. I mean, I'm not going to subscribe to your guys' Patreon, but somebody else should. I'm out of money.
We don't have a Patreon. we don't have a Patreon.
Oh, thank God. I was like, oh, geez, I went on this rant. Now I'm going to have to give these guys $10.
Oh, we can't afford a Patreon.
Yeah, we can't afford a Patreon.
All right, Vito.
Thanks so much, Vito.
Thanks for coming on the show. And let the listeners know where they can find you.
You can find me at youtube.com/Vito. I also have a new channel, Vito 2, on YouTube I just started, where I do daily rants. People are really liking that. And check out our podcast, The Biggest Problem in the Universe. You can find that at biggestproblem.show, or just look for it on YouTube and watch the video version. All a lot of fun. Thanks for having me, guys.
All right. Thanks for coming on, man. And best of luck to you.
Absolutely.
Ellen Omar married a fucking brother.
Go look it up. It's very weird. I'm not a fan. Have fun.
Thanks, man.